Hello and welcome to Flop Shop with your host Cormac Duff.
Oh, and Isadora. Hi.
And today we're doing our first podcast in what I'm dubbing the Mads Mikkelsen month, the month of January 2021. And for our
Was it
first movie, we are reviewing.
another round?
Oh, you got the movie.
Well,
And
yeah, we watched it like 2 days ago. I couldn't screw that up that badly.
why are we doing a Mads Mikkelsen month?
Because we both really like Mads Mikkelsen way too much. Like, actually, way too much. We
Yeah.
both like are very just strangely very into this Danish actor.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my hair like Mads Mikkelsen now that the barbers are closed. um, if you don't know what Mads Mikkelsen is, he's a Danish author with very sharp features. You might recognize him as Le Chiffre, the villain from Casino Royale, or as Hannibal Lecter from the TV show Hannibal. But in Mads Mikkelsen, he's not a Bond villain. He is a humble history teacher. And Mads Mikkelsen Another Round is a 2020 comedy drama. What is the synopsis of it? What's the idea behind this?
Wouldn't everything be better if we were just kind of drunk all the time?
Exactly. So there is a Norwegian psychologist called Finn Skarderud who came up with a paper saying that, hey, I think that humans are born with a deficiency of alcohol. And he said that if everybody had at all times a blood alcohol level of about zero point 0.5 units of alcohol, which isn't that much, that's like if you consume about maybe 3 pints. Um, like 2 or 3 pints a day, but you kind of consume it slowly throughout the day. So you're always that little bit drunk. That you'd be more relaxed, that you'd be more fun, that you're more kind of engaged, and your life would be overall better. So these four teachers who teach history, philosophy, music, and football, they're like, oh, let's try this, and we'll drink at work during the day and see if it makes our life better or not. What do you think of the premise of this movie?
These men should know better. All of them, they are European. They were once European teenagers, and so they know the experience of like being drunk all the time. You know what I mean? It's like it's a bunch of delusional men in their 40s and 50s thinking that somehow it's going to be different than their teenage years when they drink.
Yeah. Despite the fact hangover effects are a lot worse in elderly middle-aged life. Um, so I guess like the film starts off with with a quote from the Danish theologian Soren Kierkegaard, and it says, "What is youth but a dream? And what is the content of the dream? Love." What do you think of that, Isadora?
I think that's some hoity-toity stuff about a movie about casual alcoholism.
So it starts off with these like young people after finishing their exams, going absolutely mental and having a big night out. And I guess in the film, there's an equivalence between being young and being in the moment and being free with alcohol because people who are drunk don't think about the future. They don't think about the hangover they're going to have tomorrow or potentially long-term effects of alcohol. They're only thinking in the here and now. So I think our middle-aged protagonists come up with the idea that maybe alcohol uh, is a shortcut for not necessarily reclaiming youth, but reclaiming this joie de vivre, like this kind of fearlessness of youth. What do you think of their idea?
I think that it's a bunch of mild men utilizing alcohol as a crutch to be able to express all the things they wanted to express but were too scared to do it. Also, to take initiative in their lives because they have been doing nothing. They've been stagnant for the last 8 years in their lives.
Yeah, and I think we see that with Mads Mikkelsen's character in particular. He's the most developed, and he's kind of spinning his wheels. Like when he's a high school history teacher, and initially when he started, he was hot shit. Like he was going to do a PhD in history, but then he had a family, he had kids. He was looking after the young kids, and he didn't get do a PhD like he planned. And now he's not really engaged in his teaching. Like he's just reading from the book. He's not like making eye contact with his students, and the students aren't happy with his performance, and their parents aren't happy either. And also, he comes into work dressed like a complete slob. Like he doesn't care about the kids. or about his job. He's just like going through the motions.
Yeah, definitely. Like I just remember thinking, like teaching teachers can wear casual clothes in America, but I remember seeing his wardrobe and thinking, are they that casual in Denmark? Like, is
I
that the level of casualness you are allowed to roll into class?
I am so surprised he got away with it. So you kind of realize like he's unhappy in his marriage as well. He asks his wife like in a moments of self doubt, like, do you still love me? And she's like, well, you're not the man I married, which is really harsh, but also probably true. Like I'd say he doesn't seem engaged with his kids either. He's like, oh, your mother's on night duty. There's frozen pizza in the fridge, and they're just watching TV. He's not really engaging, and he just seems to be going through his life on autopilot.
Yeah, which is, I mean, honestly, that's kind of the fear I think we all have of our middle age. But nonetheless, like, it's kind of up to him to recognize that. Like, that was kind of my issue with all the characters, that they're justifying this under some kind of like pseudo scientific paper research they're gonna do. But it's all just a thinly veiled excuse to try and grapple with the fact they've accomplished nothing in their lives.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty harsh, but it's true. They're not living life to the fullest.
I'm
Like,
not like the biggest
like
fan of some
they're
of
not
these guys.
like I'm not saying they need to have a PhD to feel like their life is worthwhile, but they don't seem engaged and don't seem happy in their lives.
Yeah,
Um,
but you're saying they're stagnant and
mm,
they are looking for a crutch to not become stagnant when in reality, like stagnation is something that everyone goes through, you
yeah,
know? And you need to find a way to get through that. It's like part of adulting.
yeah, they need to find a way to like kind of reclaim the joy in their lives, and they are using alcohol as a crutch, but could they be not using it? Like, so this film, it's a Danish film, and it views alcohol from a Danish lens. So like the Danes drink a lot of beer, like maybe not as much as Irish people, but it's the home of Carlsberg, and like beer is a big part of their culture. What do you think the film shows points for and against alcohol? What do you think it shows for alcohol? Like what kind of would encourage you to drink based on the evidence of the film if you've never encountered alcohol before?
The problem is the film didn't really like give me like much for me to be like, oh yeah, I like drinking. I mean, beer is tasty. Beer is nice. It's like, I think alcohol is like cool for celebrations. It seems like all the teenagers were enjoying themselves. Um, there wasn't anything much for me to go like, ah yes, alcohol. Like this sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, like the when Mads Mikkelsen starts drinking, he's at a fancy restaurant, and there's a sommelier, and he's like describing the drinks and like like pornographic detail. Like he making it sound absolutely delicious, like these old Marks and Spencer's ads where they use like a series of adjectives to make the drink sound absolutely irresistible. And even though he's a designated driver, he's like, sure, I'll drink, I'll give it a go. He can't resist. So I think alcohol is it's sexy, it's easy to sell, as every advertisement.
Mhm.
Like you said, helps you live in the moment, like with these, teenage kids, helps your celebration with a sense of like bonding, sense of engagement, sense of mutual fun. Um, and according to the film, makes you more relaxed, like both while teaching and then also while performing in exams, which I'm not sure I'd like to try, but certainly in an oral exam, I'd say
Well,
you're you're
what
move more. Like I remember I was in France one time talking to an Airbnb host, and when I got drunk, my French became way better just because I hadn't spoken French in years and I had way less inhibitions. And I'm sure I was making like loads and loads of errors, but it was better than the alternative, which is just, being tongue tied and not speaking at all.
Oh yeah, what I was gonna really say is the thing that I am fascinated about is that their exams were done orally. That was fascinating to me when they were having the children like do the exams orally. I'm like, I want an oral exam. But then also their small class sizes. Okay, here's the thing. You're gonna be like, oh, Isadora, this is really what you're gonna choose to get really into in this movie. And I'm like, yeah, as an American, I watched that movie and I was like, excuse me, your concentration of teachers and your teacher to student ratio is incredibly low. Like, I really like that.
What do we say it is? I'd say it's like 18 to 1. Seems pretty small.
Yeah, I was just like, this is a very small class size. Like my class sizes had like 30 to 40, like 40 kids on like a good day.
Hey, what? That's insane. We'd have anywhere between like 25 and 33, and 33 was a lot by Irish standards.
American schools are incredibly crowded, and I was doing like advanced placement classes, so I imagine that like some of the other classes were smaller or like bigger.
Yeah, my physics class in Leaving Cert had 6 students in it.
Nope,
Jesus.
not in America. I mean, my computer science class, like when I did AP computer science in high school, like it was a bit smaller, but it was still probably like 25 people.
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it shows the Danish teaching system in a good light, and I also like the philosophy as a subject. Like, I'm not sure I would have appreciated it as a teenager, but I've gotten really into philosophy now, and like the idea of doing philosophy as a teenager, I think would have opened my mind a bit in the same way that like reading poetry, my English syllabus opened my mind as a teenager. I wish it was part of the Irish syllabus. I wish philosophy was like a leaving cert subject.
See, I'm the exact opposite. Not that I don't want people to learn philosophy. They totally should, and I think it should be part of high school. But I was really into philosophy in my high school years, and then I like took philosophy courses in university and had like professors who were like philosophers or like had been friends of like really big philosophers, like chit-chatting, and then I just like kind of sat there being like, I hate all of this. All of you are the most pretentious people I have ever met. Takes her sip of water, decides she is never doing philosophy again, slowly rolls away.
I know it. I know it can be pretentious, but still, I feel like in Ireland, the system is so much based on rote learning and learning essays without really having understanding it or grasping it. Like it doesn't reward individual thought. Like the idea is, let's just say, you're writing a essay on Seamus Heaney, and everyone writes the exact same essay in Seamus Heaney, word for word, and it's very clear to the examiner that the teacher is just given the essay to learn off. They'd still have to give the students the same mark, like 100% or whatever they think it's worth because they have to like imagine that a student coming up with it themselves. So you get literally no points for originality, which I hate. Like I like this exam, or I like the system where it's oral exams and they really engage with the students, and they're like, "Oh, talk to me about Kierkegaard and like about his philosophy," rather than just write like a four page essay on like objectivity versus subjectivity in Kierkegaard's work.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And I like the idea of being able to chat. Like, I think I would have really enjoyed that aspect of it if my teachers just asked me questions. We could have like a conversation about the topic and then they could grade me based on that, you know? But I say that, but then I'm in like med school and like literally half of my exams are oral and I'm sitting around being like, herp derp, I don't know.
Yeah, you're like, I hate oral exams in real life because I get really flustered.
But you know what? It's oral exams in medicine. If we're having an oral exam on a topic that I was about to be like I'm really good at, I'm just sitting here being like I'm okay at medicine, I promise. Um, but if it's a topic that I really like a book I really like, or like a philosopher or something, like I could probably have like a decent conversation regarding that topic.
So the film talks about the advantages of alcohol. According to the film, what are the disadvantages of alcohol?
You make very bad life choices and you're drunk all the time and you lose your job and you die.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely portrays negative effects of alcoholism. Like you hurt yourself, your relationships, your ability to do your job. Um, but it's funny. It shows like there's a great sequence in the film where they show different politicians drinking, like Angela Merkel and Boris Johnson and Bill Clinton, Nicolas Sarkozy, and even being drunk in public. And like you think with any other substance, if you caught these like politicians smoking or tobacco or smoking weed or taking MDMA, like their careers would be ruined.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
but like it's funny, like the only two like substances that are approved by society are alcohol and caffeine. And caffeine is the only like chemical addiction that's socially accepted. Like, why is it that everyone's so cool about alcohol? It's just that it's been around for thousands of years, and all the other narcotics and mind-altering drugs are much newer.
I also feel like in European culture, not to like generalize the entirety of the EU, but a large portion of the EU has some form of alcohol like deeply ingrained into their culture. Like for the Germans, like you loving beer is probably a really important thing for a politician. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the same way that like when Obama comes to Ireland, we immediately get like a bottle of or sorry, a pint of Guinness in his hand because we're like, that's how we show he's in Ireland. It's so ingrained that
Yeah.
like Irish people love Guinness. So does Obama. Now he's in Ireland. Yeah, I mean it's a huge part, and like it shows them at the end. Like the last thing they drink are like these, Danish pilsners, and in Pilsner glasses and champagne and stuff. So, um, yeah, I'm sure it's like being a Danish film, they drink, it's a big part of their culture. Do you think the film overall comes on the side for alcohol or against alcohol?
I don't think it's alcohol's fault. I actually think that the entire movie, like, I think that the movie talks about alcohol, but it really isn't like about alcohol. It's about like the sense of loss that comes in your middle age when you realize that like your youth is gone and that you don't have the same passion for life that you once did.
Yeah. And I think it portrays like being elderly in a very poor light. They're like being old is like being dead, you know? Your life is
Well,
over, you know?
I don't think so. I don't think like the film is portraying it as a bad light. I think the film is showcasing what happens if you don't make an effort
Mm.
to rid yourself of the stagnation that can come into like any relationship or any life.
Mm. And yeah, that's fair. And one of the things I like, there's a Chekhov's gun in the first act. They talk about Mads Mikkelsen doing jazz ballet in his youth. And the minute they said that, I was like, this is going to come again. They're like, do a dance. And he's like, no, no, I'm not going to dance. And when you type in another round into YouTube, the first thing comes up is this trailer, but the second thing comes up with Mads Mikkelsen dance scene. What did you think of his dance at the finale of the film?
I thought his dance was pretty good. Like I thought that the hype was pretty well lived. I've actually never seen Mads Mikkelsen dance in a movie before. So I had
Mm.
no idea he could dance.
Yeah, like he dance pretty well. Like what I really liked about dance is that he's not just like in the center of the crowd. Like he's interacting with his environment loads. So it's like when you watch like an action scene and they use all the stuff in the background. They're in a kitchen. They're like throwing pots and pans at each other and stuff. Like I felt like it was a really inventive dance scene.
Yeah, I really liked it, and I thought that like the way it was filmed and everything was really great. And I do think that the movie like I think that the end the movie did end up like making me happy. You know, like I thought that it like was a good ending for the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was life affirming. Like I think in the film it shows even when he's sober at the weekends that like he's able to engage with his wife and his kids. Like Mads Mikkelsen, he goes on a camping trip with them, and he's able to like reconnect physically with his wife as well as emotionally. So I think it shows that he even while sober, if he really cares about engaging, he can. That he doesn't need alcohol. And I found that really empowering. It's a bit like there's a film I watched about a teenage boy who finds George Best's football boots and he becomes a great footballer. But then, he was a great footballer all along. It's kind of like that. It's not quite as on the nose, but it's definitely like that the power to change is internal. And these guys kind of need the catalyst of alcohol, but overall, they're able to improve their lives.
Yeah, I think that the point of the movie is that you need to actively want to be present in your life for your life to turn out all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I think be assertive.
the reason that things weren't working out for these men were because they weren't communicating. They were just being passive vehicles in their own lives. And like you can't be passive.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be active. Like you can't be an observer in your own life, or otherwise your life will just pass you by.
Like you have to be the main character of your own life. Unfortunately, because it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I want to be a passive vessel in my life all the time. I'm like I want to study, I want to like lay in bed, I want to just like be upset about 2020 and then I'm like, "Oh no, I have to actually try." And the effort of trying and the stress of trying is a lot, but you still have to do it.
Well, now you can be upset about 2021.
I know I'm already upset about 2021. I'm like, mm.
So the director of this film is Thomas Vinterberg, who I hadn't heard of before, but I had heard of his friend and compatriot Lars von Trier. Have you heard of him?
Yes, actually I have.
Yeah. So the two of them in 1995 set up a film movement called Dogma 95, which was kind of like a continuation of the French New Wave, where they looked at American films and they saw them as kind of overwrought and overproduced, and they're like, what if we took all this like stuff that's extraneous and we stripped it back? So they made 10 rules at the time for each film, and they announced it Luther's 95 thesis. It was like their 95 rules, but they had just like 10 commandments.
Yeah.
So I'll go through their commandments. This film doesn't fully follow the commandments because this movement kind of disbanded after a decade because it's quite restrictive. But I want you to tell me if you think the film meets the rule or not. So is it a pass or is it a fail? So first rule, shooting must be done on location.
I mean, that's true. Yes, it
Props
passes.
and sets must not be brought in. If a particular prop is necessary to the story, a location must be chosen where this prop is to be found.
Fair.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think we did use some props like the alcohol and stuff, but it was usually in a place where you'd expect to find it, like a restaurant.
Or kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. I felt it was pretty natural. Like there's never like, it didn't never
I
felt out
mean,
of place.
they had to bring secret alcohol bottles, but then like into like the school and stuff. But then that was part of the movie. That was intrinsic to the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you couldn't have that film without it. It's a plot point. So next one, rule two: the sounds must never be produced apart from the images, or vice versa. So music must not be used unless it occurs in where the scene is being shot. So like if there's piano music, guy needs to be on a piano. Like
No, they had this one utilized like pop music and stuff.
yeah. So I think this breaks it. So there's
But
a
really well.
the theme song of the movie "What a Life" by Scarlet Pleasure, who are like a Danish pop band. That plays at the start during like the teenagers' cool scene and during the jazz ballet finale, which I think creates like a kind of synergy. So it broke that rule, but I think it made sense to break that rule because it worked. Next, third rule, camera must be handheld. Any movement or immobility attainable in the hand is permitted.
That's kind of a stupid rule. I don't think that sounds like a pretentious rule.
Did it keep it though?
No, I feel like, honey, I don't think that a hand, like, you need a stand for the camera, in my opinion, because if you're holding it by hand, there's gonna be like slight movement.
Yeah, I actually think this rule is ahead of its time because this came out 6 years before the Bourne Identity, which popularized like handheld, shaky cam in Hollywood. They definitely use tripods for
Also,
it. So I
I
think they
kind of
both
hate shaky cam because it
I
makes
think
me
they
dizzy.
have one short film with tripods and one short film with handhelds, and I think for the most part, handheld is the way to go. I think you get a much more intimate, especially if it's like a close-up character drama. It's much more intimate, but it doesn't work for every shot. Like you're never going to do an establishing shot with a handheld camera.
Well, I think that if you want, like, okay, this is a personal Isadora preference, but I don't like shaky cameras, and I really doubt that you can get like a perfectly like stable shot with your hand all the time, you know?
Like it doesn't have to be shaky, but I think having like a slight movement just makes you feel like you're there. Like if you watch like Star Trek 2009, there's a lot of handheld camera work on the bridge because they wanted to make it feel like different than like kind of the staid and still tripod cameras from the TV
Yeah.
series. Because it makes sense in the TV series because you need to repeat a shot several times with different takes. But if you're doing a movie, like you can do more handheld camera, gives you more freedom. And you also put in your lens flares in post production if you're J.J. Abrams. Okay, so 1 out of 3 so far. 4, the film must be in color.
Yes.
Exactly. And special light is not acceptable, so you're not allowed to have like loads and loads of light. I think that's true. It didn't feel like they were like overlighting a scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 5, optical work and filters are forbidden.
Okay. I mean, I'm kind of sick and tired of watching blue movies.
Yeah, I wonder if they did. Like, it seems like every film now has some degree of because it's digital film of post production, like altering the colors. I'd be surprised if they didn't do that for this film, but I see where they're coming from. I think it has been overdone a bit. The film must not contain superficial action. Rule 6: murders, weapons, etc. must not occur.
Well, no one was murdered.
Yeah. Rule 7: temporal and geographical alienation are forbidden. That is to say, that the film takes place in the here and now. Does it pass or fail?
It passes. It seems current.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably um, it helps with budgets as well. If you shoot something in the present day in like Denmark, it makes it cheaper to shoot. So
Yeah.
pass. Rule 8: genre movies are not acceptable. So genre movies like Western, horror, sci-fi. Yeah, I'd say that. It's like a
Yes, this
mixture of comedy
passes.
and drama. Number 9: the film format must be in 35mm film.
Did it do that?
I doubt it. I'd say it was shot digitally. It's much cheaper to shoot digitally nowadays. I think this was because a lot of people were shooting on videotape at the time, which so like the Robert Rodriguez low budget film El Mariachi was shot digitally, or sorry, was shot on tape because it was just one guy shooting it himself. And David Cronenberg shot a film on tape, and it was kind of a trend at the time. But those films have dated really badly because all the tape is in standard definition and it looks kind of terrible and it's transferred to digital.
Yeah.
So that was a good idea. And number 10, the director must not be credited.
But he definitely was
He was
credited.
clearly credited. He's on the poster and stuff. Okay, so let's go through it. So out of 10, he gets one, two, so on location and color, two, three, superficial, no superficial action, four, it's in the here and now, five, it's a genre film. So he gets about half his rules right, 5 out of 10. What do you think of these
He
rules?
was young. He was young when he created those rules.
Yeah, I was like,
Young and pretentious.
Yeah, I was like, these reels are kind of pretentious. I see where they're coming from because when you go back and watch like an old sitcom, you watch like Scrubs or something, and it's like every time there's a scene transition or Seinfeld, there's like music that goes ba-dum or boop ba doop boop 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 ba doop doo. And it just seems really jarring now because you're used to stuff like The Office where it just cuts from place to place because we consider that more realistic. And we consider like the, jazz music playing in Seinfeld. It's like, why are there all these dumb transitions? Or if you've ever seen the movie Inspector Gadget, they have like dumb like
Yeah.
sound effects like woo every time.
But I love that stuff. I
Yeah,
happen to love Scrubs. Like I love the transitions in Scrubs.
yeah. But I just think he considered it too gimmicky and he wanted to kind of move away from that. So I see why he was doing it, but I do think that it was a little bit pretentious. Also, the 10 rules, 10 commandments were called the vow of chastity.
Pretentious.
And they had to say, furthermore, I swear as the director to refrain from personal taste. I am no longer an artist. I swear to refrain from creating a work, as I regard the instant as more important than the whole. My supreme goal is to force the truth out of my characters and setting. I swear I'll do this by all means available, and at the cost of any good taste and any aesthetic conditions. Thus, I make my vow of chastity.
Yeah, they're stupid.
Yeah, this is definitely like something
Were
in
they
there.
like 19 when they made that? Sounds something a 19-year-old would say. I know I'm being so savage to these people. Like I'm being savage to like all these like middle-aged like men. I'm like, I'm sorry.
They were young when they came up with this, young and idealistic. Yeah, overall, I think he's kept a lot of those rules, which works in a sense, but he's also realized that this movie would be crap if they did not have that What a Life song. Yeah, cool. So, anything you want to add about the film?
I thought the film was amazing. I think that I mean, I don't like any of the characters at all. I think they're
Really?
incredibly yeah, I think they're incredibly well, I mean, they're like fine, but like I said, I get frustrated by characters who are passive vessels in their own life and don't look inwardly as to why that is happening. You know what I
I
mean?
think I think they're relatable. I think you could see yourself or someone you know in a situation like that.
Yes, but they are still frustrating and relatable is not likable in my book.
Okay.
No, relatable does not equal likable
Yeah.
necessarily.
I guess in American films, characters have to be like more likable, but in like British and European films, they can just be like more human and
But I like some bad characters. I like some characters that are like evil. You know what I mean? It wasn't just that. It was more like I thought that they put the blame on everything to outward forces and
mm,
factors instead of looking inwards.
yeah,
And so I found them frustrating.
yeah. I think that was the message though that like change has to come from within, even if the
But I
outcome
love the movie and I happen to like really, really like it. And I thought
was
that
still a bop or a scam.
oh my god, it was a total bop. It was so good. I really hope that it ends up getting like a bigger release in America.
Yeah, it's a bop for me as well. Like we have it on Flop Shop, even though I think the only reason it flops, well, I'm not gonna say flops, but it was premiered at the Cannes Film Festival and it was released in Denmark in September 2020. So like the height of coronavirus, it still hasn't officially been released in Ireland. So the only way we watched this was by getting like a VPN and like paying to rent it on American Amazon. So I was like, Jeff Bezos, if you want our money, you can have our money. We just really want to watch it.
I
So
know.
it
It
should be
was
coming
just
out
so
in
sad.
Ireland next month in February. So guys, if it comes out in cinemas, go see it. It's bop for me as well.
I mean, come out to go see it in the cinemas once you get vaccinated, fam. So we're in a pandemic.
Or just wear a mask and take your life into your own hands, as I did with Tenet. Was Tenet worth maybe dying for? Probably not.
I don't like that part.
Okay.
Here, I won't say the vaccinated thing. Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Yes. So I think the vaccinated thing is kind of most people aren't going to get a chance to be vaccinated until the summertime. So it sounds kind of go ahead and get vaccinated when it's not realistic for most people.
Sorry about that.
No, it's great. We'll cut that bit out. So 37 minutes. Yeah. So this film is a bop for me as well. I loved it. 2 thumbs up. Go see it, guys.
It was amazing, and I really do hope it gets released in Ireland soon. And worst case scenario, you can get it on American Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. Get a VPN, get it on American Amazon, or watch it in cinemas next month when it's released. Come back next week for our next review, which is a special video game review, our first one ever. If it's a hit, we'll do more video game reviews. If everyone hates it, we might stop. So tell us what you think next
From our one watcher, my mom, who I'll just call and ask if she liked it.
Yeah, she'd be like, I've stopped watching. So our video game is going to be Death Stranding. So
the best video game.
If you have
walking simulator, but everything's dead.
If you have 36 hours free over next week, play Death Stranding and then watch our podcast. It's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from her.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Great.